Hello.
He's not paying any attention. Thank you everyone for coming. This was slightly sprung on me as a surprise this morning that could I do a speech. I'm sure the person who asked me to do this won't mind me explaining the situation that I found myself in. So I think it reflects quite nicely on Carol and why we're here. Is that the person in question sort of first said, I can't do it well enough with tears. Some sort of mention of 20 years, which confuses me because that means that they were both toddlers when they were walking. And it means too much to them and there'd be too many tears. So obviously being a sucker for a woman's tears, I obviously at that point clearly agreed that yes, a speech was clearly what was necessary, and obviously a pleasure to try and give a few words. Now, normally I don't like to have to read a speech because it's a little bit on the hoof. I've had to make a few notes, just so I didn't forget anything of things. I mean, I think really it's been quite funny. We've been joking over the last few days about trying to make people cry in tears, and Carol's mentioned that as well. And I think it's very much that I think it's we should regard that tears are a tribute to how loved somebody is. So I think it's not necessarily a bad thing. Now again, because I hadn't had very much notice, it's quite difficult to try and find out all the embarrassing stories from Carol's earlier days, that from before I met her as a very responsible and senior nurse. So I know a little bit that obviously sort of began training at York Hill. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Things as you let slip the other day.
Then you maybe I was doing my funded children. I know it's did you?
No? And then obviously then you came through to the Victoria, but I understand you were never a proper Victorian nurse, or could never be. Well, that was the things. I hear these wonderful stories about these outfits.
They will be envy.
As a young man, that slightly baffles me. But I think photos at some point are going to have to be produced and things. Also, the other thing that I don't know whether I should mention this for people reading, but the little thing yesterday about vomiting and diarrhea was the nurses that were teaching you and things. So it must be a nursing thing. Or was it vomiting diarrhea? It's going to live with me, that one. And then I know that you sort of worked in haematology, the sister on ward A, which I understand used to be the haematology ward. And things. So I'm sure you rule with an iron fist, as could be expected. It's quite funny actually, sort of having a Retiral at this point in time, and someone who's been sort of attached to the Victoria for a couple of years, shall we say. And at the time when the Victoria, well, the old Victoria is shutting, although obviously we stand in the new Victoria, it's sort of there's ends of eras in lots of ways. I think that's sort of a time for reflection. I wonder whether that might have something to do with Carol's time with when she goes. That really probably brings me on into my own personal thoughts, my time over just these last 3 years, and I think probably the first thing about Carol which struck me as sort of coming here as a new person was that here was someone who clearly just looks after people. Patient, obviously, because it's mainly what we're here for, but also staff. And I think as a new boy, I felt I was being looked after, and that meant an awful lot to me. I'm going to catch Natasha's tears this way. Sorry, it obviously wasn't Natasha crying this morning, of course. One wants to ruin her reputation and things, but I think that was very much the feeling then. It wasn't just sort of in the workplace, it was also the contacts that you provided sitting at the back there, further aspects of my life and things. I think it was that welcoming, and I think wherever you look, you see that same attitude to everybody, is that you're the person that looks after people, and that be that patients or staff, friends or colleagues, whichever you want to use the term. And that's something that I think sticks with me. I think you're someone who comes across as your door is always open. I know it's a metaphorical open door because we don't really have doors in the same way nowadays, but you always feel that you can always go and ask Carol things and seek Carol's support or Cal can tell you that that's a silly idea. Whichever, usually silly idea in my case and things. So I think the other thing, just vaguely trying to remember patients that, I mean, I've had a painful few years doing the clinic because I've had to listen to how Dr. Tansy and Dr. Shot saved my life several times a Thursday afternoon. Interestingly, these last few months has been a new one as well. Oh no, not Carol going. How will I survive? Who's going to look after me? Martin. And I think that in itself also tells you something, is that how dearly patients regard you and how much faith and reliance they put on you and things. I think it comes back to that you're the person that looks after people and things. So I can now look forward to the next year or two. How's Cal? Oh, it's terrible that but I miss her so much, and a box of tissues and sure we'll move on. And things. I think the other thing that's been interesting with Cal is that I'd like to think that the doctors have managed to bring out the more evil side of Cal, the more brutal side, a side that likes to inflict pain, which is I think maybe is a little unexpected by people that know, because we taught Cal to do bone marrows. And it's interesting though, because at first I don't think Cal was entirely convinced by it all, but actually it's funny, you love it now. It is a thing. So Willie, she's got quite a steady right hand. I'm sure you can put her to some use. But I think, joking aside about inflicting pain and suffering on people, it's again something that you took on. And you didn't tell us that you were probably thinking about the time we were teaching in the house and things. But again, you took it on, got on with it, and obviously did it brilliantly. And again, patients now asking Cal to do the bone marrows. Never mind. Never mind. So then before I started to bring it very close to this end of when Cal called me up and said, I've just been to let Myra and Laura know something, I wanted you guys to be amongst the first to know. And I was like, oh God, this isn't going to be good. And it wasn't. It was the fact that Carol was telling us that she was going to retire soon. I tried to feel happy for her. I'm still trying to feel happy for her and things, but I felt sad. I felt sad that compared to some people who strangely have known Carol for far longer, 20 plus years and things, I've only had the benefit of knowing you as a colleague for just a few years, and but from my point of view, they were quite important years in my professional life, and I'm very grateful for just those few years, let alone number of years that many people in Sweden will have known me for. I think I'm getting some tears. Martin, no pressure. I was joking to say that I was going to try to make people cry. I don't really want to try to make people cry, but I think people are probably going to cry a little bit. And again, I think when I go back to what I said originally, was that I think tears can speak volumes about how much somebody means to people. I don't really think I needed to try very hard to make some people cry. I wish you a very happy retirement. I wish you a very happy and long retirement. I wish you lots of enjoyment and pleasure. And I know that one of the things you're going to be doing is looking after people. I think that speaks volumes to you as a person that I suspect you're always going to find yourself doing that, because I suspect that's what you love doing and are very good at doing. I was scrolling the notes, trying to work out what I was going to say, and I'm not sure if I should say this because it sounds a bit corny now. But I hadn't nicked it from a song or a film or anything, but it's more like that, just to say that just because someone is no longer going to be your colleague doesn't mean they're not going to be your friend. So Carol, it's been fantastic. I've been entertaining too.
Thank you for all the very kind words, and it's just lovely to see all my friends here, colleagues. I mean, not colleagues, they're friends, absolutely. I have to say, if you missed the eclipse this morning, you'll see it here. It wasn't worth actually waiting for, but anyway, I'll keep it short and sweet because my career does go back quite some time. But you're a captain body, so. So So it all started, I guess, at school. The dreaded Dunkerque Secondary School in East Kilbride, when I really wanted to be a home economics teacher, because I thought, the holidays are good. Food, that's me. So, but it all went terribly wrong when I started doing my higher grade, and in the midst of making my chicken curry, and I had this excess amount of rice, and I didn't know what to do with it. And the assessor was coming along, and I thought, show my initiative, put it in the apron pocket. And I went and I put it in the corner down there. So the grade that I got was no quoi. So my dad came along and said, well, you're not sitting about the house doing nothing, you need to find a career. Last thing I would ever have thought of was nursing, but he packed me off to Cardonal College, and I started my pre-nursing course. And where did I end up for my assessment was the Victorian Infirmary. Came along in the most awful crimply dress that somebody must have had before. It was a very heavy smoker and had burnt it, and it was very scratchy to wear. And I had duty shoes, even from then. So that's really where I got my love of nursing, and moved on to York Hill there. Met some wonderful people there. Children were fabulous. Hematology side of things came into play very quickly there. I really wanted a staff nurse post there, as this stemmed back from when my uncle was the chief lab technician in the Western in haematology, Bill McLean, and he was really started me wanting to do haematology. Anyway, when I'd finished at York Hill, they gave me a post in cardiac surgery. So I thought, no, I have to get out of here for a wee while. And I came across to the Victoria in 1979. Where's that now? Excuse me. 79, Debbie will remember 79. Debbie's probably the ninth sister then.
No, I just finished in ICU and I was away in the Middle East.
So I came over as a pre-reg nurse. I would never make a Victoria Infirmary nurse, I was told by the chief of the teaching department.
Well, we're all told that.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Even with the vomiting and diarrhea. Remember that movie?
Mrs. McIntosh.
So, Eva Roundtree, who was here today as well, she was my first ward sister, and I can't believe that either. So I came across when I went into, I actually didn't go into the original Victoria dress. I went into a horrible bright pink thing, because I was never going to be a Victoria nurse. Anyway, from there, completed my studies there, was going to go back to York Hill, and I seemed to filter into Ward A as a staff nurse, and I think that was about 81. So I had 2 months as a staff nurse. I was summoned to the matron's office, and I thought, oh dear, has she found out about the broken thermometer or the burnt milk in the pot from the night before from the patient's suppers? This is going to get docketed off my wages. They sat me in the office and said, you girl are now the sister of Ward A. I thought, oh, thank you. What does that entail? So, 13 years later, and during that time I met wonderful patients, colleagues here, friends. Sandy Sharp, I see has sneaked in. Love you too, Sandy. And Patrick. God bless his socks. So they had lots of faith in me and things that I could do. I did a lot of firsts in the Victoria, I guess, you know. Hickman lines, wow, I managed to take care of Hickman lines. And then from there, I don't know if it downhill or not, got married, had a family, still had me working. 9 weeks after the family, back at work girl. So, barefoot and pregnant, I went back to work, and the medical unit was getting opened up. And I was interviewed for that, and it was Pat that interviewed me and said, that was a hellish interview, Carol, I don't know how you got that. But set up a very small day medical unit, and that's when my very close friends came with me. And we've got this alliance, we've got the King, Brown and Gilfillan alliance. And it has stayed with me for all these years. So, 12, 13 years after that, I was never going to stay, you know. Susan Berry's moved on and I got the CNS post. But this time, Pat was on the panel again, and he said to me, "Girl, you did well there, you actually did well, and your maturity was on your side this time." So, anyway, the preparation, I took it on. I felt quite isolated in the post at first, but I've met such wonderful friends that have helped me along the way. One being Gillian Sherwood, who's not here today, who's now the lead nurse for palliative care. In fact, is a very dear friend of mine. And is one of my arty crafty people that I'll be very close touch with. Anyway, lots of people have had lots of confidence in me and kicked ass with me a few times as well. Myra, thank you for that too. And had great faith in me doing things at Bone Marrows. I feel that's a great achievement for me. But time to move on. And I have a wonderful replacement who is very, very capable and is going to take this post on to great limits. You're going to do very well, Martin. Thank you to everybody, and thank you to my wonderful consultants, Al, Kale, Ian and Anne. As I say, have great trust in me, and thank you so much for that. And thank you to everybody that I can't really name. Oh, Lord, I'm here for Mary, Kale, who's the convener for all the nights out if you're interested. Anyway, absolutely. But thank you so much, everybody. One other thing is I was very pleased the other night there. I seem to be very employable still. My husband said to me, "How do you fancy joining the company and getting a job with me?" Ah, great stuff. Sounds good. I said, "What have you got planned? Labourer?" Well, maybe not, because I don't think he could actually work with me. He couldn't work to my high standard. Candy boy. Anyway, thank you for that anyway. I'm going to have a lovely retirement. I've got a lovely family around me. I have a mother that needs me now, and I have a lovely little dog that I walk lots. I wasn't just talking about it. Thank you.